My surgeon said I wasn't supposed to preach for a while, so I'm just going to talk a little bit. Anytime something like this or some dramatic thing happens, I have just part of my norm is to just start asking questions about what, not necessarily why it happened, but what can I learn from this? And God didn't cause this. God doesn't cause things like this to happen, but God allowed this to happen. And I know that's true because in my life there have been thousands of times where I could have done something more as serious or more serious, and God prevented me. And afterwards I can't believe how dumb that was. I can't believe that I almost didn't cut my hand off. And this time I said, I can't believe how dumb this is. I literally almost cut my hand off. So I spent a lot of time in the days and have been since then thinking about, what is there to learn from all this? And the obvious thing is that God was orchestrating everything. One of the first things that happened when I got into the first surgeon is he looked at it and he says, I don't understand why you didn't cut any main blood vessels. How did you not do that? Because I went all the way to the bone, all the way across here. And yet there was bleeding, but it wasn't excessive. I knew as soon as I'd cut it that it wasn't life-threatening because blood wasn't coming out in great volumes. I'd wrapped it up and I wasn't fine, but I was not in shock. I wasn't panicking. I knew that it was serious. So God was orchestrating things even from then, and the fact that there was a young, I think very gifted hand surgeon at that hour on a Friday night on staff was pretty amazing. And the fact that all the insurance things got answered clear around the world, which would have been the middle of or early in the morning here. But I found myself suddenly in a situation that I'm not normally very comfortable with. I'm a very independent, self-sustaining person, and I'm not used to having to depend on other people. And suddenly I found myself in a situation where I could literally hardly do anything. I could barely feed myself. And I was in a hospital where people around me spoke a little English, but not a lot of English. And I was totally at other people's mercy or at care or to take care of me. And it was an unusual place for me to be. Kind of a humorous thing that happened. I had a roommate, a really old guy. He was probably in his 60s. And he had pneumonia. And Spanish isn't the main language in that part of Spain. It's Catalan. And Spanish is their second language, and then English is kind of the third for a lot of the younger people. So I tried to engage him a little bit and asked him a little bit about him, asked his name, told him my name and some things. And then at some point the nurses were just so helpful and sweet and kind. I thought I said to him, the nurses are really nice here. And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? So I'm not sure what I said. But anyway, I was thinking about it all and continued to think about it. And as I was flying home on the plane, we had a long journey to get home, a huge layover, and I watched a movie which I can't exactly recommend. It's a Marvel comic movie called Deadpool. And it's extremely violent and probably not appropriate for hardly anybody here, but I was watching it. But there was this theme that kept coming out in this movie. I don't know if you know anything about this character, but he's very much alone, and he can't die. You can't kill him. He just regenerates everything. He has a lot of anger issues. And there are these other, I guess, kind of superheroes that from the very beginning of the movie, they're trying to get him to join them. And they keep saying, you need a family. You need to be part of a family. And he's resisting him through the whole movie. And finally, in the very end, he gets this glimmer of an idea as how important it is to be part of a family. And so that started me thinking about, what does it really mean to be part of a family? When God calls us, when we first encountered God, as humans, we're very independent. Paul says everyone wants to go their own way. And there's a sense, even after you become a Christ follower, that I don't know about for you, but for me, there's just always this sort of a little bit of a reluctance to follow God. I kind of want to just do my own thing. And I've learned over the years that's not a good idea, but that's sort of our nature. And it kind of surprises me when some people who are not religious say that religion is just a crutch, it's just something that weak people need. And I hear them say that and I think, that's really an ignorant statement, because all of creation responds to the cycles of creation. I mean, salmon go up, the rivers respond, the birds are all flying north this time of year. They're doing that because they are connected to the cycles of creation, and we believe those cycles in creation come from a God, from a being, from a person who's loving, kind, and engages all these cycles. And so to say that we don't need to be a part of those cycles, to me that's ignorant. And that's not just, it's not just saying that you have a weakness, it's saying that if you don't do that, you have a weakness, that you're missing a huge part of life. So that's the first thing that we learn in the scriptures, is that there's a loving God, that we are part of this creation plan, and we have the amazing privilege to link into that. And we see that in the book of Exodus, in our study of the journey of the children of Israel, of the Israelites, of the Jewish people, how God is wooing them into a relationship with the Creator. And he's showing them again and again how they are so important to him and they're part of this great plan. The second thing that he starts to show them, I realized, is the importance of their being part of community. And we're going to explore this more and more as we move through the book of Exodus. But community is such an important part of who we are. And community is one way of which we use the word family. And family is often something which is genetic, it's blood, but Jesus said that it's really way more than that. Family has to do with those people who are part of your support system, those people who are part of your life. And I realized, as I was thinking about all this and thinking about my time in the hospital and my future going forward and how dependent I'm going to be upon so many people for so long, that I don't do family very well. I'm a very independent person. From the time I was very young, I started working. I had chores to do every day. I earned money. From a very early age, started buying everything I needed in life. And I've always worked. I've always taken care of myself. When something needed to happen, I did it. And I've never felt bad about that. I never resented my parents for not providing my clothes and food. I mean, they did provide some of the food, but I was fine. There was quite a bit of turmoil in my house, and so I found solitude in going out into the woods. I spent a lot of the time in the woods. I'd wander over to the Bliskys. I'd walk over to the Lichtenbergs and hang out with those guys, but a lot of times I was just alone out in the woods. And I, in my nature, am a very independent, self-sustaining person. And, I'm one of 6 kids, but I never truly learned the community of a family in there. We all lived together, we did things together, sometimes we played games together, we'd go on trips together, but I never really felt intimately, emotionally connected to them. And so through all this process, I've been thinking a lot about that and why that's true. And I guess in many ways I've always thought of that as kind of a strength, but now I'm seeing that there's a huge weakness there. There's a huge part of life that I'm kind of have missed because of my huge independence. And I want to know what that means, and what does that mean for me, and what does that mean for us? Because we use the word family a lot. We have my whole ministry, we've talked about family. But I'm realizing more and more that a lot of you know more about it than I do. And I see it in the way that you live your lives, and I see it the way that you relate to each other, and we even really in how you love me in some ways. So I'm exploring this and learning about it, and as I said, I see now that that's one of the things that God is showing the children of Israel as to how to be a family. One of the things that comes out of that discussion when Christ emerges is that there can be an exclusiveness in the term of family, in that we sort of cling to those who are closest at the exclusion of everyone else. And Jesus makes it very clear that the point of family is to grow to love other people. And the family that ultimately we are all supposed to be a part of is the human race. That's God's family. God said God so loved the world that he sent his son. And the Jews really missed it. And I think sometimes Christians really miss it as well. Because there's this tendency for us, once we have a family, to think this is it. Here's where we are. Here's where we're comfortable. And Jesus says, no, you guys are missing it. You're completely missing the point of all this. And they continue to miss it. I mean, there's hardly any group of people more isolated from the rest of the world than the Jewish people, maybe the French. Maybe it's a close second. But the Jews sort of think that they're the tip of the iceberg and that God's blessed them and everyone else is kind of down below. And Jesus said, no, you're there to bless the world and to love the world, and the whole world's my family. So that's something I've been thinking about and pondering and wondering how that affects us and how we need to be better at loving each other, but also at loving the world and our community. So what does this mean going forward? I don't know a lot more about this. This is all things that are just coming to me. But I had a thought. My son, Brian, is part of a family that I think does family really well. And I hear him talk about some of the stuff that they do. And they get together, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandmas, grandpas, and they just have a lot of fun together. And they have a lot of fun family occasions, and they go on vacations together, they do trips together. And one of the things that he told us about that kind of surprised me is that they have a family song. That every time the family gets together, I don't know what the song is, it's just, I don't know, some Beach Boys song or something. Yeah, maybe it's a Beach Boys song. And they just all start dancing and hooting and hollering and shouting out this song. And that's part of their family ritual. And I thought about the importance of music in a family. Probably all of you remember back when you were in school and your school had this song that was the school song. You remember that? And when the school song started playing, everybody would jump up and you start yelling and belting out this school song. And I thought, there is a component, obviously, of music that we connect to God. That's true, isn't it? I mean, there's some times when you're just listening to music and you can just feel and sense the presence of God. But there's another component of singing together that makes me feel a part of you all. I mean, a couple of the songs we did this morning, those songs have been around for so long, but something about when we sing certain songs, we just belt them out. And when we do it best is when Bob leads it. Isn't that right? There's something about when he comes up and says, come on, you guys, let's just sing. I realize that we're doing something communally. This is us. This is our song right now. We're singing together. And yeah, God's happy about it. But it isn't just about me and God. It's about me and you and singing this song together. So I sang differently this morning because of that. Because I realized I wasn't just communicating to God. I was I was celebrating with my family. And I enjoyed that. And I'm looking forward to doing it some more. So, I don't know what all God will teach us about this. And I realize this isn't just my journey. This is, in many ways, this is our journey. And I just, I sense your love. I sense you sharing in my pain, but I also know that this is something we're all working through together. And so God made that all very clear to me. And I'm looking forward not to the pain, not to the journey, but to what we can learn through it. So thanks for being my family. Let's stand up together. Let me close us with the benediction.